What's going on, guys? Dan from SSG bringing you another Edison format deck profile. This time I'm profiling my take on Psychic Frogs. This is an Overdrive Teleporter Frog Monarch deck. The deck is extremely powerful. It does a lot of sweet things. And yeah, that's about it. Let's get into the deck list. We have a full 3 copies of Substitoad, of course, 3 copies of Swap Frog, 2 copies of Treeborn Frog, and 2 copies of Dupe Frog. Not too much to say here. We just want to have early access to Treeborn in our graveyard, as well as having the ability to dupe block our opponent. Very strong little frog package there. On to some Monarchs. We have 3 copies of Caius, of course, the best Monarch in the format. Very format-defining card. We're going to play all 3 of the Caius, and I like to play all 3 copies of Raiza as well. I like these Frog Monarch decks. I think Raiza is a really powerful card, and in combination with Caius can just run away with games very, very easily. So we have the full 3 copies of Raiza. And then we get into our Psychic package here. We have 3 copies of Overdrive Teleporter. This card is extremely powerful, and I've been working on Overdrive Teleporter decks for quite some time now. I think the card is very, very powerful and can just do a lot of different things, a lot of combo ability with this card. Can do a lot of really powerful stuff, and card can just straight up come down and win a game, and I love it for that reason in this style of Frog Monarch deck, because we can do normal Frog Monarch things by controlling our opponent's board with Raiza and Caius. But once we have control of the game, sometimes the Monarchs don't always get it done. We usually need something like a Deep Sea Diva, something to actually come in and close out the game, actually kill our opponent. This card just does it for us straight up. Pay 2,000, essentially win the game. And it also gives us a lot of toolbox answers with all the monsters we're going to be summoning off of it. So I do like this card a lot. I think Overdrive Teleporter is an underplayed card. Very, very powerful. And in the shell, it's very easy to summon. So we're going to try it out here. On to our Psychics, we get to summon off this card. 3 copies of Psychic Commander, of course. Card just a fine card. I know, like, level 3 tuners in this format are just very highly underrated, especially in combinations with Treeborn Frog. Being able to synchro into Armory Arm for some really nasty combos, and easy access to Armory Arm is really strong, especially when you just have, like, this in hand with a Caius in play. Treeborn comes back, make that Caius 3400, start just crushing your opponent with it. I think it's a really powerful play there. And this card's just really strong. It beats over 1800 beat sticks, can kind of just be a menace on the board in some positions by itself. And it's really great to summon off of our Overdrive Teleporter, of course. And I like to run the 1 non-tuner of Mind Protector here. Card's just fine, you know. It's just going to be able to summon next to the Psychic Commander when we want to summon a non-tuner off of our Overdrive Teleporter, synchro into a level 6, and it's going to be good, you know. We're going to be able to have access to powerful level 6 synchro monsters, and just really strong. I think it's a one of. You don't really have to play it, to be honest. I've been kind of toying around with the idea of just playing triple commander, but drawing double commander is just like pretty much like lethal. You kind of just like lose. So having the ability to still combo off when that does happen, I think is good. But yeah, I think this is just a perfect package here. We're going to be able to summon 2 of these out of our deck with Overdrive Teleporter and kill our opponent, or at least put us in a very powerful position. So I do like these cards a lot. I have 1 copy of Dark Dust Spirit, and I love Dark Dust Spirit as my 10th tribute monster that I like to play in these Frog Monarch style decks. It just does so much in the format, and Quick Draw is a really, really popular deck. It kind of can just blow away Titanial with a bunch of tokens in one swoop, and card's just really good. It makes your opponent play so differently, and this card just coming down over and over again makes it so they eventually run out of cards. Really powerful effect here. Moving on to our hand trap section, of course, we have Gorz and Tragoedia. Of course, we're going to play these in any Frog Monarch style deck. We're going to have a lot of cards in hand, and we're going to have these cards just be menaces on the battlefield. This card is really strong because we can copy levels, and it just gives us a lot of options for our tuners to synchro with. So Psychic Commander gives us a lot of options in this deck, and Tragoedia also gives us more options together with the Commander. 2 copies of Battlefader here. I've been upping Battlefader because these Blackwing decks are super, super aggressive. They're just dropping multiple boars into play, killing you with value monsters out of the graveyard, summoning out those Armed Wings, and I just want ways to come back into a game and really prevent that damage. And I think 2 Battlefader does multi-purpose in this deck because it's going to help us prevent things like Blackwings and Judgment Dragon from killing us, as well as kind of enabling a sweet combo that I'll get into once we get into the extra deck. So I think having the additional monster in play when your Treeborn comes back is actually really strong for Overdrive Teleporter in this deck. So I like the 2 copies of Battlefader. It does multi-things in this deck, multi-purpose. On to spells, 3 copies of enemy controller. Of course, we're going to play 3 econ when we have tuners in our deck. We have monarchs in our deck. We're going to be really comboing with treebron frog, just doing the most with this card. So we're going to run all 3 copies. Same goes for the 1 copy of brain control, just extremely powerful. Tribute the monster for our overdrive teleporter and just kill our opponent. Keep the treebron in play is just really strong. We can do really nasty things. And for the same reason, Mind Control. Mind Control, really strong card with Overdrive Teleporter, just giving us insane access to our whole extra deck, different levels, and being able to kill our opponent through a monster is very powerful. Onto some spell cards here. We have the 1 copy of Heavy Storm and Cold Wave. I like Cold Wave over Giant Trunade in this deck because we don't want them to be able to have Gorz in live. We want to just shut off their back rows after reborning our treebron frog, go in for the kill, with the overdrive teleporter. And this also just combos well with the enemy controller, because we can enemy controller and standby phase, tribute that frog, take their monster, bring it back, and then main phase drop this into play, and it's going to be pretty lethal from that point forward. So I like these 2 here to interrupt our opponent's back rows, and of course we have 1 copy of MST, just good generic removal for those back rows. Onto more spells here. We have the copy of Emergency Teleport. This card is busted. The fact that we get to play it is very powerful, so we're going to run the Emergency Teleport. It's just really nasty in this deck. It just kills our opponent. It just does really disgusting things, gives us a lot of different options, and just really powerful. We have 1 copy of Scapegoat. This card is also really good at protecting us, but it also combos well with the Overdrive Teleporter, giving us access to multiple different levels. Really strong here. I think the card's good. I think it's flexible and it does its job, so I like to play 1. Moving on, we have the Pot of Avarice here. Pot of Avarice as a 1-of in Frog Monarchs. I just like it in these decks, man. Like, being able to put multiple Monarchs back once our Frog engine is gone, really powerful. I don't want to be always turboing out my dupe lock and then putting frogs back. That's not something I want to be doing with multiple copies of Pot of Avarice. Just put 1 in your deck. It's going to be putting powerful cards back, drawing 2 cards in the late game, really powerful. It's essentially a Pot of Greed plus putting good cards into your deck in a lot of decks in the late game. So try adding 1 into a lot of your decks. I've been liking it quite a bit, and in this deck it definitely does the job. And 1 trap in the deck, of course, it's going to be Treacherous Trap Hole here. Card's just really good against established boards. Being able to set it once your opponent has a board, I think, is where you want to be when you have this card. So just set it as a 1-of. I think it's good. I like it against Blackwings. Yeah, it could be like Dust Tornado or MST'd, but I think being able to set this into 2 Blackwing monsters is really good. If they don't have an MST or Dust, they're not going to be able to Icarus attack you or anything like that. You're just going to be able to set this, blow away their monsters, get a +1, and keep the aggression off of you, essentially. That's the main deck. Onto the extra deck. It is a toolbox, so we have 2 copies of Armory Arm this time. 2 copies of Armory Arm, because Armory Arm is just nasty in this deck. We can make it so easily. And one little combo I was telling you about when I mentioned earlier was just the double Psychic Commander, and we want the battlefader for our treebron frog, because the reason is when we go into, if they attack us, we drop our battlefader. During our standby phase, we're going to reborn that treebron frog and then sacrifice it for our overdrive teleporter, pay the life points, bring out 2 big Psychic Commanders here. And now this is our board, right? And it just gives us a lot of options. But the main one I like to do is, of course, one of the main draws of this card is having access to the powerful Hyper Psychic Blaster Piercing. You gain life points equal to the piercing damage. It's 3,000. But the main reason why I like Battlefader in this deck is you still have access to the Armory Arm here. And being able to equip to the Hyper Psychic Blaster, 4,000 damage, piercing, life gain. Really powerful. Most of the time game-ending effect. Even attacking into a Raikou is strong here. Just so much damage. Very powerful. And I like 2 copies of Armory Arm because you can just make it so easily with the access to the level 3 tuners, and being able to make the card in combination with all the powerful extra deck monsters you can play is just extremely strong. So I do like the 2 copies of Armory Arm for those reasons. That card is just very powerful. We have 2 level 5s, Catastor and Magical Android. We have 2 6s, which you summon often, Brionac and Goyo. Of course, we can summon this with Psychic Commander plus Mind Protector off of the Teleporter and just kind of push for damage. Really strong cards here. 2 7s, Black Rose Dragon, of course, and we have Psychic Lifetrancer. Pretty interesting card here. I think the ability to gain 1200 life is super, super relevant. People say life points don't matter. In Edison, they do to some degree, and I think that 1200 is quite a big chunk of life points, so being able to stick this in play, not really commit too much, you know, you can just kind of like summon this off your Overdrive Teleporter, beat down with those 2 cards, gain some life points, and it's going to be kind of hard for your opponent to come back from a position like that, so I do like the Lifetrancer. On to some level 8 synchros. Of course, we have Stardust Dragon and Colossal Fighter. Very powerful cards here. We have the Thought Wheeler Archfiend as well as Red Dragon Archfiend. And then, of course, 9s, we have the Hyper Psychic Blaster. Really strong card. Just being able to just really do some nasty things in this deck with the piercing damage. Very, very strong. And then we have the 1 copy of Mistworm as well. We can make this card. We're going to play it. It's very good. And then we have the 1 copy of our Chimera Tech for the Cyber Dragons on the sideboard, of course. Onto the sideboard. Very streamlined sideboard. I like to have streamlined sideboards in our Frog Monarch base decks. We have 3 copies of DD Crow. We want to draw it early and often, of course. 2 copies of Cyber Dragon. I like Cyber Dragon in combination with the Psychic Commanders. I think it just gives you easy access to level 8 monsters, and being able to sacrifice, being able to tribute set this as well to Contact Fusion with is really strong into your opponent's machine monsters. They can't really respond to it. Treebron comes back, you tribute set this, contact everything away. Very powerful. They can't bottomless you until after the Chimera Tech has already come out. So very strong card here. And then I have 3 copies of Vanity's Fiend here. I love 3 Vanity's Fiend in these style of decks. You can summon this on turn 1 if you really have to with Swap Frog. And card's just really powerful. Just a lot of decks can't deal with it. And it's going to be very strong for you. And comboing with the Vanity's Fiends, 3 copies of Soul Exchange. I like this card in general, just going second, because it combos with, of course, the Vanity's Fiends. But it also combos with our substitoad. Just normal summon substitute, activate this, and then just start doing it as a dupe lock. Just really strong, I think. This card's really powerful. It's not played enough in the style of decks, and I wanted to make room in the main board for it, but the problem is it has like an anti-synergy with Overdrive Teleporter, because we can't actually attack on the turn we activate this card, so we want to be able to really push in that damage in game 1 with the Overdrive Teleporter. So I think it's fine to sacrifice your opponent's monster for Teleporter and then make a board. Like, the card, like, it's reasonable, but we don't really have any back row to protect that board. So just the Soul Exchange made it into the sideboard this time, but card's very, very strong. And some traps here, 3 copies of Dust Tornado, just some random problematic cards that can come up. It just helps also make your combo go off, like with the Overdrive Teleporter. So 3 of these. And then the last card would not be your SSG profile without it. 1 copy of Trap Dust Shoot, the most powerful trap card in the multiverse. Open this card and you are a better duelist than your opponent. Do never forget that. That is about it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck in the comment section below. I think this is an awesome deck. Overdrive Teleporter just gets there, man. Like, the card is just incredible. I think it's extremely, extremely underrated. Card's just really powerful. Does some pretty awesome things, and yeah, I mean, the card's just sweet. I love the way it just kind of is a 1-card combo, especially in this deck where we can just sack Treeborn so freely. And that is about it, guys. So without further ado, this is Dan V from SSG signing out.